Remember how Kail and Leah used to be really close? They even showed up looking a mess on one of these red carpets together. They used to even queer bait together. One thing about Kail is she loves queer baiting. I know she's bi and whatnot, but that does not exempt her from using that at times to try and get attention for herself. And, joking, is she or isn't she faking, relationships with her female friends and whatnot? You never really see her faking relationship with male friends, but with female friends all the time. Just saying. So the two of them eventually wound up falling out, and it was due to, well, let Kail tell it. They fell out because Leah joined some sort of a cult. This is something that she has been alluding to, if not outright saying, on her podcast for quite a while now, right? Leah, to her credit, has remained rather silent about this entire ordeal up until recently. So Leah just did an interview with OK Magazine about their falling out, about life and everything like that in general, and the potential of Teen Mom Next Chapter ending. Remember, Cheyenne Floyd's initial baby daddy, Corey Wharton, he had come out on his Snapchat and said that Teen Mom Next Chapter was about to be put on pause. The network, the whatnot, they're not feeling the show. They know people are getting bored. Like, the ratings have gone to the dung pool, or whatever you call it, for ages, right? So they're thinking about putting it on pause or changing the platform. And so now Leah Messer is addressing those rumors in addition to the status of her relationship with Kail Lowry. Okay. So about the show potentially ending, she said, and I quote, "I think I'm in a place where I'm ready for, if it doesn't continue, but I think you'd be missing out a lot on who the kids are. They've just got to know all of us." And come on now, they just got to know all of, girl, you've been on this show for 16 years. What do you mean we just got to know all of you? We've been getting to know you over 16 years. Stop it. Right. And we'll miss out on the kids. What? Listen, the kids, let them even have just 2 years. No, they can't even have the 2 years because they're already 16, right? But let them even have 1 year of childhood without cameras. 1 year, and you don't want to do that. You've already sold out the entire childhood. You said, listen, please continue selling these children up until their adulthood, even within their adulthood, because guess what? I cannot manage my money. Because don't forget, Miss Leah has an incredible amount of tax debt. She's got a 6-figure tax debt to cover. And she needs those children to be filming those damn scenes in order for her to pay it off. So she's claiming she's ready for it, but girl, you're not. You're not going to be able to pay that off without this show. Stop it. So she's picked up real estate. She has picked up waitressing and whatnot. So she does have some backups, but she still needs that check from the show in order to pay off that tax debt, in addition to continue to finance her lifestyle, right? But I digress. Honestly, the audacity. When you're just starting to get to know us 16 years later, stop. Okay. Now our kids are actually blossoming into who they're becoming, and that part would be missed out on. I guess it's a bittersweet thing to think about. Let them have a little bit of a young adulthood, Leah, away from the cameras. Stop it. Truly, stop it. Okay. So in regards to the status of her relationship with some of her former co-stars on the show, she says that they talk on social media, but not as often because they don't really see each other very much. But when it comes to her fallout with Kail and Lowry, Leah says, and I quote, well, first of all, she preferred not to comment, right? And then she says, listen, I don't want to comment. However, what I will say is our children are super close. My children were asking when we went to do the 16th Teen Mom anniversary photo shoot, like, why isn't Isaac here? Those are the kids they grew up with, especially Kail's. We went on vacation together and they were really tight. Recently, my children have been like, I really miss Kail's kids. And it shows how close we really were. We did have a really close friendship. And I think that we remain cordial. So there you go. That friendship, it's not what it once was, and I don't know that it'll ever go back to that place, right? Leah's trying to keep it cute, but don't forget, Kail was putting all her business out there, accusing her of being in cults and whatnot in public. Listen, maybe she was in a cult, but then to go and put it out there in public, to have people kind of laugh at her or whatever, not the greatest idea. Right? Nikki says, that is a tacky ass picture. Isn't it? Like, how do you walk out of the house, thinking you look good and you're just like this? How do you look at your friend and tell her, oh, you look great, let's walk this red carpet, and she looks like that? Come on now. That is so weird, right? So weird. Abby says, we watched them develop. What the F? Right? Come on now. Come on. RL says, it's sad to see Kail become this way. She used to be my very favorite teen mom. She appeared so well put together and level-headed. The way she changed is crazy. You know, she was never my fave, but I used to think of her as a very smart and a very, very responsible girl. And I never in a million years would have imagined that she would have made the choices to lead her life down this path ever. If someone told me that Kail would be the one to end up with like 7 kids by 4 or 5 baby daddies, I would have been like, no, that's got to be Janelle, maybe even Leah, you know, but I never would have thought that would be Kail ever, right? She did have a little bit more to say. So speaking of Janelle and whatnot, they also asked her about Amber's estranged relationship with Leah, which is so weird, right? This is, again, what I mean when I say that these people have really like put their children in such weird positions. You've got your weird ass colleagues ambushing your children on the show for storyline purposes about, you know, their abandonment trauma, the status of their relationship with their deadbeat parents, right? And now these magazine people are asking, like, you know, co-stars about, you know, your child's relationship with their parent. Like, it's so weird, right? So she says, listen, I think when it comes to that, it's none of my business. I don't want to get into other people's family dynamics and their challenges, but I just really feel like no matter what, the children, the kids, they have to be put first. And I couldn't imagine. We just got to set ourselves aside and make it less about you and most about the children involved. And so now she does say, however, that her heart breaks for what Leah might be going through, and that she hopes that Leah can find some kind of common ground with Amber. Quote, I know how challenging that can be, and no matter what, your parents are your parents. I hope that they can all work it out, and I send love to them. How do you guys feel about her statements there? You know, not necessarily just her statements about the Leah, you know, and Amber situation, but, you know, about anything, you know, the fall of her friendship with Kail, the kids being close in the past, asking for Kail's kids, everything. Teresa says, I'm dead at that peg. Listen, I think they were just so drunk or something like that. When they showed up on this red carpet, they were a mess. They were sauced. Teresa also says, I think when Leah said, she meant it like y'all have only seen us in our lives. So there it is. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. You're right. So like, yeah, you've only gotten to know us, but not yet the children. You know, I just find it so weird that they have no desire to allow the kids to live a normal life. You know, you would think after 16 years, it's like, okay, like, let me, you know, allow my kid to, because this is the kind of the complicated stage of life, right? Like 18 to, let's say, like 23-ish or something like that, where you're like really like thrust into adulthood, but you're still so young to really fully, you know what I mean? Make great decisions and whatnot. So like, you would think they'd be more protective of that, you know, and to get these kids away from the camera, or to say, listen, I want you to at least have your 20s to yourself, because you had nothing to yourself up until then. But no, listen, I find that to be very sad. Didi also thinks the picture is tagged. Listen, let me put it up one more time for good measure before we get back to before we move on to our final story of the day. A mess. And look at Kail's little shoes. Look at Leah's little shoes. What the hell are those? What are those? Jesus, who dressed these girls? They looked a damn mess. Those jeans, everything is just so. You would think that they would have had like a stylist or like brands offering them things to like pull, like a mess.